Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of the Confident Carnivore podcast, where our motto is change your fuel, change your life. I'm here with my co-host, Janice. Hey, Janice.
Hello.
Everybody knows Janice. My name's Aaron, and today's guest is Ashley. Hello, Ashley. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Aaron. Hey, Janice. Thanks for
Hi.
having me. This is Lloyd, my faithful companion.
Lloyd.
He's destroying a bone right
Hey,
now.
Lloyd.
Say hi.
Lloyd already looks like a carnivore, huh?
Uh,
How you doing today?
He has gone. He has since left me.
Oh, how's it going over there?
It's going great. It's
Good.
going great. It's a nice full
Yeah.
day.
Good.
Nice
We're
to.
really excited to have you on the show today. Get a chance
Yeah.
to hear about your carnivore journey.
Yeah.
And before we dive into that conversation, we're going to ask just a couple of our intro questions. You know, your age, if you don't mind, and how long you've been carnivore.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I am currently 38 years old, and it's currently 2021, and I started carnivore in 2017 in the later part of the year.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you've been on it for a while. Was that full carnivore or kind of a combination sort of
Yeah.
keto transition, or?
Like in the beginning, it was, I heard the podcasts, that Dr. Baker was on with Joe Rogan, and I was just really impressed with it all. So I was already very keto, and I was like intermittent fasting. I had done a lot of really great body composition work. I was doing really well, but there were some things that keto didn't exactly help me with, and I wanted to go full bore. So I got rid of coffee. I just drank, water. I was doing ground beef or steak. I was doing like the butcher box thing. But yeah, most of it was just like cheap and easy, local farmer, organic, ground beef. At that point, it was really just a matter of getting rid of the onions, the garlic, and the leafy greens,
Right. Yeah. So I want to mix things up a little bit today. And, whenever we talk about diet, and, this is referred to as the carnivore diet, people, I think their first thing they think about is weight and weight loss when you start talking diet. But part of what we're getting into in the Confident Carnivore podcast is, exploring a lot of the other benefits that show up that maybe people don't really know about, that we all stumble on, and they become way more important than the weight aspect. And with you, knowing a little bit about your background and reading some of your bio, I thought it was really interesting. One of your phrases that you used that really struck me was you changed your relationship with food through the going carnivore. And I just want to read something really quick, and then I'll turn it over to you, and you can just kind of talk a little bit about your journey in that area. It says, what we eat and how we eat are integral parts of our identity and directly influence our health via physiological, social, and psychological pathways. And that really struck me because it's so much deeper than just this weight loss thing or building muscle or all these things that maybe initially attract some people, or that's put out there in this whole diet conversation. But it's way much more than that. And I think your journey really illustrates that process. And so I just wanted to hear from you, just, how that statement of you changing your relationship with food, how that really changed your whole world from where you were, what you've been through, and some of the different circumstances.
Oh yeah. Um, it's been a wild journey, and
Yeah.
it's really awesome that I'm still on the journey, yet I feel like carnivore has given me a new lease on life.
Mm.
So my journey with food, I mean, I didn't even know that I was going to be embarking on a journey with food. When I was young, I thought that, the low fat, lots of vegetables, if you can stand them, low calorie things, um, you know, sugar on the weekends, things like my mom was doing in Weight Watchers and stuff like that. And my dad, he used to pat his pizza, the grease off the pizza, the grease off the bacon, grease off
With
the
a
French
paper towel
fries.
or a napkin or something.
Yeah. Oh, how appetizing. Yeah. So, and I would do that with him, and I was in solidarity with him because
Yeah.
he was prescribed, I think, statins. I know that he came home one day from a doctor's appointment after, I think it was after he broke his leg after just a simple fall, and they were like, your cholesterol's so high, no more sausage in the morning, no more this, no more that. And he just like went on bran flakes and stuff. So I was being a good daughter, and I was supporting my dad, and I was doing what my mom said was, good for weight loss or whatever. There was a time when we had Coca-Cola and High C, remember those giant cans of High C? You'd have to poke them open.
Totally. Yeah.
So we'd have that, and people would come into my mom's life and tell her what to do nutritionally, and she would do it. So she was an easy, she was a student of life, like a lot of us are.
Hmm.
So I saw her start carrying a jug of water around everywhere, always a big plastic bottle of water. And then she started becoming a holistic nutrition theologist, and just kind of bringing lots of soy into the house. This is in my teenage years, lots of soy, lots of like heavy fiber things, lots of these things around the time that my dad actually he passed from brain cancer.
Mm.
As he passed, we came to find out that he was allergic to wheat. And years after that experience, I decided it was probably going to be a good idea for me to eliminate wheat, because I'm kind of like, I've always been kind of like a philosopher kid, like seeing things kind of mimic other things, and I draw like, maybe like life lessons from something or whatever. So what I would do was, like, I would pretty much try to be the underdog. I think I always had that kind of like, they didn't get it, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna learn the lesson from this thing. So I did I did everything that my mom was telling me to do, and it started causing acne on my face. I lost my dad, and that's considered a huge stress event, and that can cause the kidneys and the liver and the gallbladder to kind of stop working
Hmm.
efficiently, and it can put the body in kind of in a raptured state where it doesn't function properly. So along with all of this high fiber stuff, vegetables, supplements, and losing my dad, I was going through a lot of stress. So my acne actually initiated like the next deeper phase of what was already a depression. I developed a depression around the age of 12, and it was a really deep, dark time in my life, but it got even worse when the acne
Right.
came up and I lost my dad.
Yeah.
When the acne came up and I lost my dad, I started doing binge eating, bulimic behavior, and anorexic behavior. And at that time, I was feeling like I was losing security in my life. There were a lot of challenges that I was going through once my dad died. And then of course there's like at 12 when I was diagnosed with bipolar and with depression, I was on medication. So through the years of my dad slowly slipping away from brain cancer and then quickly losing him when I got that bad, my medications were changing too. And my body was changing because I was a teenager and I was becoming a young lady. So my body weight shot up, my acne got so bad. I stopped acting and I just, like, I was in survival mode, honestly. Like there's so many like aspects to my family dynamic that threw me into the sense of a survival mode.
Yeah.
That at that time, I think bulimia became a way for me to kind of reiterate those messages. See, I was getting messages from my mom that I was too sick to work or go to school or get my license or any of that stuff. But that was her way of kind of using a diagnosis, which happens too often, in my opinion, using a diagnosis against me so that I couldn't leave her home. Like she needed all sorts of supplemental income because she was disabled as well. So, so what we do in this world is we're under this impression that food only affects our weight, like you said, and it doesn't affect our mind.
Right.
So I really didn't want to be on this medication since I was 12. I didn't want to be on the medication.
Yeah, when our mind is all messed up, we do all these crazy things with food, right? If you think about that relationship, right? And then nobody puts, it's hard to find people that are putting those things together, right?
Right. Even doctors. The doctors don't want you to make those connections.
Right.
What was going on in my household as we were losing my dad, the idea of death was so stark, and the idea of losing resources because my dad had died was so devastating to my mother's sense of security that she went full bore into, how do I live forever? How do I bypass illness? I don't want to die. I want to be perfect. I want to live for, living forever is so appealing to some people.
Yeah.
But when we're following these fringe, like carnivore is kind of fringe, but when we're following these fad diets and they're telling you that you have to take away, you're losing the structure of your freaking brain.
Right.
By way of your intestinal tract.
Right.
So it's like it's a no-brainer now. Because I can't even imagine anybody ever assuming or even thinking that I would have a disorder to the point where I can't work, where I can't conduct my life. So, but funnily enough, these disorders, they end up rendering people handicapped sometimes.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, my relationship with food now is really great. It's it's different than the relationship that anybody around me has other than this community. Like even in the keto space, when I was in the keto space, I spent so much time trying to figure out how to hack the baking situation. Now, I currently recreate waffles using 3 simple ingredients. Sometimes I add a couple flavors, but it's not something that I feel is a celebratory thing. It's not. It's really just a way to expand my palate. And that's important for me personally. Everybody has their own thing. but I used to spend so much money on, yeah, those are my waffles.
All right. They look good.
I got a good strategy on making them, just a really enjoyable experience.
Oh, they're
You
great.
know,
Janice made me some of those once. Those are really good.
yeah, I have such a limited repertoire of food that I can eat because I'm dairy free. I have been since I was 12, which is interesting because that coincided with the depressive episode that led to the medication. And that same year they removed my tonsils too. So my immune system was pretty trash. Um, when I was a kid, I didn't have a comfort relationship with food. I had a comfort relationship with food. It probably developed probably after I was recovering from anorexia and bulimia.
Yeah.
I just kept saying, I have to eat well. I have to eat well, which meant eat lots of variety. Don't put any judgment on food. And when I was ready to come off of medication, I went straight to veganism. And I had always been very light on meat. And you'll see in this picture, I was really selling the damn juice.
You totally look like a commercial in Women's Day
Yeah.
or something.
Well, see, like my dedication to food was to heal me, and I always wanted it to heal me, but I didn't know the proper way to derive nutrients from food. In this picture here, this is before I decided to become a health coach, and in this picture I was pretty much struggling to be vegan, vegetarian, because I just didn't have the energy. And my whole thing was, I want to feel good. I want to feel healthy. I don't want to be on the medication anymore. I want to just live a happy and healthy life. So I would look at the foods. See that? That's a picnic that I put together when I worked at Whole Foods.
Wow.
Like I like helped organize this thing, and I was like, we're gonna do this non-meat thing, and
Looks like yard trimmings.
And
I'm sorry, I don't want to insult
say
anybody,
stuff like that. No, people would say stuff like that, and I couldn't get it. I didn't get it. I was like, this is the healthiest thing. This is so healthy. But my relationship with food was for comfort at one point, and then it was a saving grace from the anxiety, the depression that I was going through. And I was trying to kind of emulate.
Sorry to cut you off, but what was the comfort you were getting from the vegetables? That doesn't, when you think of like comfort food, that vegetables are one, at least for me, that come to mind. So what were you deriving from the vegan, vegetarian style diet in that realm?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's like you don't feel great. You always want to have a piece of chocolate afterwards because you have no energy. I was deriving a sense of creativity, and I was deriving a sense of resourcefulness, thinking that I can take care of myself with these new methods, that the people who raised me have no idea the impact, the potentiality behind these things.
Yeah.
I'm a child abuse survivor. And one of the things that emotionally triggered me a lot was the idea of hunting and causing pain to animals. So I would also use this vegan, vegetarian thing, the vegetables, the fruits, to identify with as something that was more about abundance and about liveliness and living, and not so much death and pain and sacrifice. That center of me was so injured. there was no sense of honor in sacrifice. There was just pain
Right.
in sacrifice.
Yeah.
So there was really a limited depth that I was willing to go to heal those things. I wanted to be raised up by sugar. I didn't have roots, I wasn't putting my feet into the ground. I wasn't feeling the depths of the abyss from which I've come
Yeah.
out of. So, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do that. They spiritually connect with animals, and they're suffering. They're not seeing really the value of the circle of life and the value of being strong and supporting your organism.
Yeah. And was the vegetable eating, was that also linked to a certain identity for yourself, it sounds like, to some degree, and
Yeah.
maybe sort of reestablishing yourself as your own person, and you were
Mhm.
raised on some other types of diets, and this was your own discovery, and you were going to do it this way, and a certain
Mhm.
identity related to that.
Yeah, I think you might agree with me if you've witnessed a lot of the activists on that side of the spectrum,
Hmm.
where they're being bold and they're pushing against the system.
Right. Absolutely.
They know the secret. They know the secret. They know how to manifest joy and abundance with plants because the plants are
As
there
long as you
for
supplement with B12.
right, right. Or they don't, and they just spiral out of control with things like idiopathic symptomology,
Yeah.
like numb fingers, or they get tinnitus, or
Mm.
they literally can't, like me, I couldn't lift my neck at a certain point. I'd have to roll my body out of bed, and I was having trouble lifting my arm at a certain point too. But yeah, it is an interesting thing how people identify with food. When
Yeah.
you think about like eating meat, yeah, carnivore, I do this, I fully support this movement. People need it, and it's obvious that we're starving. Um, this identity of being like kind of meek and small and um passive, it doesn't work. It only makes people pissed off, you know? So another thing is I really wanted to help my family. And I'd never seen anybody in my family try all fruits and all vegetables. I never
Mm.
saw them try to tap into their like emotional relationship with food. I was so encouraging around that. There was a book that was written in the town that I was living in when I was doing all this. I was really into like, the grocery stores, the health food stores and stuff. And there was a book that was written. It was literally like, what fruit do you identify with? What vegetable do you identify with? And something deep down in me was like, that is so dumb. But but it honestly, it does get people thinking about how they feel. And if somebody's so disconnected from who they are, which I definitely was, if they're so disconnected and they don't want to be identified as someone that can be exploited or vulnerable, then they project it out onto other things. I used to approach hunters all the time if I ever saw them back at home where I used to live, and I'd say, "You disgust me, blah blah blah. How dare you?" I even had those sentiments toward military members, and it was because the person that did the damage to my body when I was a child, he was in the military. He was actually expelled from the military for being too violent. And then he was also a hunter. So these early exposures, even seeing Bambi sad that he witnessed the death of his mom, was it? I don't even remember. It's been so long. But even that kind of stuff, it just like grates on your heart, and it makes you emotionally detached from really your own pain. But it does help people to experience emotions. It just doesn't really help when you really get to the core of it. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
I have a YouTube channel where I used to talk about this a lot, and it irked me so much that people got caught up in it, because I know what it feels like to just want to kind of be like the savior to your family members who are either dealing with thyroid issues like mine were, or they're struggling with obesity, or they're on medications that they feel ashamed of being on because they know they're not crazy. It's like you just want to pull them out, and I definitely was willing to like do whatever it took, because I even went back to family members that have really hurt me and tried to help them. And that's the other thing, like you can't change the world through a salad. Like you have to talk about hard issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And Janice has shared her story with some of the vegetarian diet and the some of that mental anguish, and all of the back and forth and different things. And Janice, feel free to jump in at any time. As you're co-hosting, don't forget. You're sitting there.
You have a mic on, right?
I just know how different I was as a vegetarian versus now. And it looks like you took kind of similar steps, like you went from vegan and then you passed through keto, and then you found your way to carnivore. Can you share a bit about how that all occurred? Sounds like you were pretty deep into veganism. So
yes. So I've always, sorry, that was loud. I have a keyboard in front of me, and then I just hit it with my bone. My dog's phone.
That a Fred Flintstone cell phone?
It's like
hello.
keys. Forget about ivory keys. Yeah. Okay. So I think I was trying to reach people through food. I think I was trying to show people that I can overcome whatever it is you think of me. I can overcome it by being a peaceful plant eater. And then it was somebody I started dating was really challenging me on these things. And I was like, oh, how healthy this is. Like my mind is being blown. And then I gravitated toward paleo more because I was so into the science of it all. I was interested in understanding the answers to the questions that the vegan community couldn't answer about insulin, about ketones, about weight loss, about depression. Why does it increase depression in so many people? Why is my acne so bad still? Like it's not as bad, but it is. So it was bad. It made me feel so uncomfortable. I couldn't act anymore. But I, at a point, was starting to use like my diet as a goalpost to show people that I can do this. A person in particular, I can do this, I can do that. Watch me do this. I can do that. I can understand this. I can show you that I understand this and I can apply it. It's not that hard. But I really wish that I had been doing that in my relationships with other people instead of through food, because then I would try to use the food to get them to change, to satisfy the things that I needed from them, which were profoundly deep needs not
Yeah.
to say that like nobody's needs are always like, I mean, we all have profound needs, but to be able to articulate that you need acceptance and you need love and you need compassion and empathy and support and all these things. I was afraid, I was so afraid to ask for that. I wanted to prove to people that I was worth that. So that was another part of my relationship with food that needed to change. And that's actually part of why I love the waffles that I make when I make them, because those waffles are a component of the carnivore diet that I had never experienced before I actually got over the devastation of the falling out of my family and the previous relationship in which I started keto and carnivore in. So these transitions are they're really about the relationship with myself and my new experiences with the reality that I need to eat meat for my brain and for my body. I need to have all animal foods on my plate. If I don't, I see the differences. And when I try to add things, my body tells me right away what's possible, what's not, what's good, what's bad. And then I remember I hated tomatoes when I was a kid. Hated tomatoes. I also hated bread when I was a kid. I'd only eat the soft parts. Like I was very picky about certain things. and you know, if somebody told me I have to eat everything on my plate, I would do my best. I trained my body to like be distended all the time because I was always feeling ashamed if I didn't finish the food on my plate, if I was looking peckish or anything like that. And there was a point in my life where my mom couldn't really afford food. We were getting church donations for food. Yeah. And one Thanksgiving, like I had a giant, I was left alone in my house when I was like 8 or something. And a giant like Salvation Army truck pulled up to my house. And this guy came with all these groceries, and then he closed the door, and I was left with this giant turkey and all this food. So that stuck with me, that like somebody else is the source of my food, not me.
Yeah.
So that was another major thing. Now I'm going to be annoying, and I'm gonna have to ask you if you can edit this part because I need to plug my laptop in real quick. I forgot.
While you're doing that, I'll continue the conversation because you can probably still hear me. And that is,
very good.
You know, all of these things you're talking about are so fascinating, and I want to switch into this whole new world of carnivore. And super simple, obviously. Eat meat, right? Or meat centric diet. And what were some of the, you know, you weren't, you know, obese or, you know, overweight or anything, and that wasn't, I don't think, you know, based on what I know and have seen, that was a pursuit or a big interest of yours.
No, well,
you had all of these other benefits, and I want to like tap into those, like what are, because after we've been on it for a while, we kind of tend to forget some of the things that happen, and we take them for granted, and everybody else is like struggling with all this stuff every day. What are some of those things that you would say are in your top of the list items?
So that picture right there of my back, I'm in the gym.
Oh yeah.
That picture there was when I started rowing.
Okay.
About every 3 days. And I was also lifting pretty heavy, but previous to that, on keto, I was exercising my butt off. I was lifting heavy and everything. And also, lighting is such a funny thing. In this picture here, this is the same day. This picture was taken along with the other picture of me, the same dress, obviously. but in different shade. In this picture, you can't see, but I had always dealt with a distended belly,
Oh,
always. In the other picture, you can kind of see it. But
yeah,
my full-time job was to always have it contracted so that people didn't think I was pregnant.
oh,
And
okay.
and I had to deal with the distended belly as one of my childhood injuries. So it was a digestion problem that I was facing since about 5 years old. Come here, baby, you could come up. You could come up. At about 5 years old, I had blunt force trauma to my belly, and that never went away. And because it was always visible for me, it always reminded me of that. So it's helped me heal profoundly some CPTSD triggers that would usually render me really self-conscious. And
Yeah.
it would lower my self-esteem to a point where I had no confidence. And I would be in relationships and I would, chase after my family members who really just disrespected me on profound levels. So, so with Carnivore, I feel like I'm strong. I feel like I'm tough. Like just today, somebody started hounding me because I have so many waffles in my Instagram photos. And you're like, it's really not anti-inflammatory to be eating eggs all the time. And I was like, listen, you don't know squat about what I'm doing with my food, honestly. And I'm not taking this lying down. And you need to know that you need to think about that before you start throwing negativity around. And we got into a conversation. I was like, you can always talk to me. You don't have to come and throw negativity at me.
Sure.
Because God, my Carnivore waffles are a high fat. They're not, she was saying it's a high protein thing and it's going to cause premature aging. And I was like, dude, they're yolks. This is super anti-inflammatory. It's just fat. I mean, it was just something that could have gotten me really upset, but I'm able to step up and speak against people that try to make me feel bad. And granted, for some reason, I'm a target for the people in my family as a scapegoat. I've always been a scapegoat because I'm a truth teller. I feel like Janice is a kindred in that.
Yep.
And
got that right.
And so is Aaron. He's a bigger
and
cheater
Aaron,
than I am.
yeah, the seeking never ends. People have guilted me. You overthink. You're looking for things that you already have. You're looking for somebody who is perfect, but I'm right here. No, you're an a-hole. I should never have been there. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So confidence is definitely a major win with this way
Yeah,
of eating.
you had talked about not really being grounded before, right? And it's
Right.
you feel some weight in your boots, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can sense it from you, right? Sitting over there, we can
Yeah.
all sense that weightedness of being grounded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Translates into that confidence level, which that shows up in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. Have you ever done something that really pissed your parents off and they told you you're grounded? Grounded?
Yeah.
That I was grounded perpetually. I was so grounded. So as part of my as part of my own pushback, I wanted to be
Floating
airy
around.
fairy,
Yeah.
I want to be loose. I want to be loosey goosey. And It's just never like that when you're eating fruits and vegetables. You're just like totally contracted all the time because you're
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
But also, like with the groundedness, I learned a lot of that in the gym. And I think my appreciation for carnivore came from witnessing how different my body was as a keto person, paleo, keto kind of person, versus carnivore. That picture of my back is solid. It's just rowing. It wasn't much of anything. It was just rowing. And it was the food that was fueling my body to build it. So when I remembered how much time I even like had a personal trainer help me through, and he showed me such great techniques, but I was still inflamed because I was eating nightshades, I was eating nuts, seeds, nut butters, lots of coconut flour, on keto, and I wasn't getting the gains. But carnivore showed my body that it can be solid and it can be stable. Going to the gym every day, that definitely helped me with acclimating to such a strict diet. Just going in, getting it done, coming home and feeling the reward. That's how simple life can be. That's how simple carnivore is. You eat, you get it done, and you go home. I work all day long. So these days, I'm eating 2 to 3 meals, and I don't need to go to the gym to work it off or whatever. I'm a very active person because part of the confidence that I've gotten from being a carnivore allowed me to finally graduate massage therapy school.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, so I believed what people used to tell me about who I am. And that's the difference between confidence and low self-esteem. You
Right.
can actually like be your own source of who the hell you are.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, totally. Go ahead, Janice.
I just want to ask Ashley, because I know you studied at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, right? And I know they talk about all kinds of different ways of eating. And you mentioned, I want to talk about the actual properties of the food, because when I was a vegetarian, when you were vegan, you know how they talk it like in Ayurvedic terms. It's like
Yes.
there's the food is actually airy, right? It's airy and light and cold. And as a byproduct, you are then spacey and light and cold. And so
Mhm.
when my experience of switching from vegetarian and plants to eating carnivore was being grounded, and they talk about hot, moist, and heavy, like you're grounded, you're actually acquiring the properties of the food you're ingesting. You have heat, right? You're generating heat.
Yes.
And so I want to share the
Yeah.
photo of what you showed of what you're eating, but can you
Mhm.
speak to how the actual properties of the food and how your body processes it changes your actual, who you are, how your body's designed, all of that.
Absolutely. So the first part of the IIN program that was imperative for me to understand was that the way that I prepare the vegetables and all this stuff was going to need to be very laborious, or else I was going to have enzyme issues, digestive issues. And we also covered the things that trigger salivary production in the mouth so that you can pre-digest your food with saliva. You don't get that when you're not cooking. You get that from smelling. Your olfactory is going to pick up the aromas of cooked food or maybe even fermented food, because that stuff is pre-digested too. But while the food is getting cooked down, you start creating salivary glands. This was the Walter Willett messaging. we had 101 nutrition paradigms that we were supposed to understand. And the Walter Willett one was the first. And I think soon after that was Ansel Keys. And so what I learned was to be confused as hell about food. I knew that I needed to digest food. I knew that I needed to activate my enzyme production in order to digest food. So then I went to smoothies because they're easier to digest. You don't need so many digestive enzymes. Or I went to the supplements. My dog is like going crazy over that bone. But with actual real food like the eggs and, brisket or, meat, fat, for me, I realized my body knows what to do with those things. It knows how to build the cells in my body because that animal has more characteristics in common with my body than a plant cell has in common with my body. Metabolism is you're breaking down food, you're taking it apart, and then you're using it as energy to build. That's a very complicated process based on plant cells. I mean, you can't derive complete proteins unless you do it meticulously. And I don't think that I ever got my complete protein from just adding rice and beans together. I think I just got a bunch of gas from that. Even if I sprouted the beans and the rice before I cooked it. So there's all these processes that you have to go through in order to mimic the natural process of the stomach and the intestines, and it doesn't even, and the mouth, and it doesn't even work the way that they're selling it. So we have that. And then on my YouTube channel, I also have it's like the intro or the preface to the book, oh my God, I can't remember the name of the book. The Dentist, Weston A. Price. Okay. Food and nutritional degeneration. I think that's the name of the book. So in there, he talks about how vitamins need to be synergistic with one another. So you take magnesium, and that activates your ability to create vitamin D from the sun. And then your vitamin D is going to tell your body what to do with calcium. If you don't have these things in place, you get calcium deposits in the wrong freaking place. And your bones become brittle. They're not malleable the way they should be. And then you get a broken bone. You get osteoporosis.
Yeah.
So everything is like this beautiful orchestra. It's a beautiful formula. It's this like wonderful symphony of vitamins and minerals, and they're synergistically building you and helping you function. Where are you going to get that from? Celery juice. You're not. Or the persimmons. I used to cut up beautiful persimmons. Used to cut up mangoes and put chia seeds on them. I felt like shit. Sorry.
No, it's true.
You want to come back
That's the honest conversation right there,
Yeah. Another thing is I suffered from IBS for a very long time. And that's another thing that I don't have to worry about. And I think that kept me from being a massage therapist. You cannot imagine how self-conscious I was. I went to school twice and couldn't graduate until the third time because I had acne and people looked at me weird and they were scared to touch my face, or I was scared they were going to touch my face. And I had incredible gas and just unpredictable bowel movements. And, it was embarrassing because I was the girl that would get standing ovations. I would be on stage and it would fill my soul during the most devastating times in my life. And yeah, I remember at an interview, I was interviewed at a little store, and they were like, "Tell me one thing about yourself that you really want me to know." And I was like, "I always wanted to be famous." And he was like, "Okay, you're hired." And I was like, "Yay." And then I was like, he probably has no idea how passionate I am about acting and being out in front of people and all that stuff. Just because the body language of acne, it it suggests so much. Everything from anger issues to uncleanliness, even if you're scrubbing the hell out of your face, you know. Um, but yeah, back to what you were saying, Janice, though, those um those kind of characteristics of the food, they do, they do definitely they stress that. It's like you are what you eat. We had an instructor, actually the owner of the school, he used to say that you can look at a person and tell what they eat. You can look at a person and you can say, oh, they love asparagus. Oh, that person eats a lot of pork. He used to say because they'll look like what they eat. And that is true to a degree now when I look around and I see somebody who has a very strong bone structure, and they have, you know, it looks like collagen is being developed really well in the body, and you know they're getting sun and all that stuff. That can be a wonderful compliment. It could also be a really startling tell when someone's not doing the right thing, but the problem is when you're in it you can't see it. Did you have that too, Janice?
Absolutely. I didn't know that I looked like sickly and skinny fat and pale and gross.
Yeah,
But now
yeah.
I do know that I look like a cow.
I know. You're a couple
Because that's what I'm eating. So that means I look like a cow. So but yeah, I exactly know what you mean. You're so distorted. Your perception is so distorted when you're
Yeah.
so undernourished. You're just eating all these plants and
Mhm.
foods, and you just feel like so spacey and so negative about yourself. And yeah, it's just
One of the things that I find really interesting about the people that are drawn to my profile as a coach is that they're looking for an overhaul in their life. And I think it's so interesting that they can see that.
Hmm.
And in a lot of times the meat is kind of like, it's an easy thing to get, but it's kind of a hard thing to use to transform. The transformation has to come first. You have to like say, I'm worth feeling and looking better. And it's so hard when you can't see what you can't see. So transforming, I think, I think my goal is to remind people that the meat is going to give you vision. It's going to give you a more realistic vision of what's going on in your life, you know?
So Ashley, you're a coach on MeatRx, the the carnivore platform out there, and
Yeah.
what would you like people to know just about you know kind of a concise capture of your coaching style and what they could expect if they wanted to get some coaching from you?
Yeah, that I go deep, but I can stay in the practical stuff too. But I've been in therapy. Well, I'm not still in therapy. I feel like I'm beyond a lot of the things that they're able to participate in. But I started therapy at 7. So the conversation of truth and depth, like you guys are interested in, it's very easy for me. So if somebody's like having a hard time formulating words or putting words to their struggle, um, I can definitely help with the confidence in seeing what your story actually is.
Yeah,
And like
you can
how
totally hang with people, and you're great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, feeling alone sucks. You don't have to be alone. And
Yeah.
if you don't want to be part of a giant community, a 30-minute call, it's not that bad. You can always like make longer calls, but getting these things, getting the reality that the like sugar it's addictive, and it's a weapon.
Mhm.
It is a weapon. Big pharma needs you addicted to it. Politicians need you to be addicted to big pharma. It's a wild game, and you can just step out of that. You can. There, there's hope, obviously, but there are answers and there are alternatives. And people like me who have survived a suicide attempt, you know, people like me who I was so scared. I was so scared to make changes for myself. I was willing to donate a kidney to somebody who didn't treat me very well, but I wasn't really willing before then to realize that I had healing potential within my own body. Until I saw that, I was like, my body can heal somebody else. Maybe I need to start healing myself. But I don't want anybody to have to go and do stuff like that and sacrifice themselves like that.
Yeah, and Ashley, you and I have had a lot of these conversations around, this show is about confidence, but I think you and I have discussed just the idea of it's really about starting from having no self-worth. And this way of eating gives you, as you said, the clarity and the vision to see clearly so that you're then capable of healing yourself and taking positive action to rebuild your thought processes, to restructure your life, to be in positive relationships, to set boundaries. It's about, when you're improperly fueled, you don't have the wherewithal to be able to do any of those things. So you just stay in that pit of despair and loneliness and self-loathing and self-hatred. And so that's really when we talk about confidence. I know, you and I kind of have talked about that aspect of things, right? This tracks perfectly with that journey. And I think that's the part I see for your coaching is that no matter how deep and dark a place someone is, you can help bring them out of that, but knowing that they need to be properly fueled to do it. You can't do it. I really don't believe you can heal in all of the ways you've talked about without the proper fuel. I believe it's impossible, personally.
I
Like if you're
fully,
sugar, you're
I
eating carbs,
fully,
you're vegan, you're not going to be able to heal those kinds of traumas. So
Mhm.
and well, with this point in time, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about our favorite confident canine, Mr. Lloyd.
Lloyd.
Shall we
You've come a
show
long way.
pictures now? Can we share?
Yeah. Everybody wants to see your beautiful face, but you're such a good boy.
I liked on that part, Janice, that you just brought up about that, and Ashley, you mentioned that a few times about vision, right? That suddenly your eyes are open and you can see things that you didn't see before. And in a lot of ways, you're kind of astounded at, as you said, like the profoundness, but at the same time, at the simplicity and stuff like sort of so accessible and so
Yeah.
right there and so easy to fix. And it's like, man, I went around the earth and back and arrived back here, and it's all this easy, and it's almost scarily too easy. And it's just like, it's got to be much harder than this. And
Yeah.
but then because your vision becomes so clear, it's like, and all of that you spoke about, that connection and how your body's processing everything, and it just all feels so natural, and you're no longer focused on it. You just know that it's like, I'm getting what I need, and I can see that really clearly. I can focus on all these other things, and with that, it's this circular process, and it's like, well, I feel better about myself, and oh, by the way, my skin is all cleared up and I look beautiful in the mirror, so I'm going out and like kicking some ass today. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it all is just like feeding into it, and you're not stopping and going like, oh, what should I, this isn't working, or I need to take some supplements, or I'm getting bored of this, or all these things. It's like, well, you don't. And that changed the relationship, going all the way back to that. It's like, well, you stop thinking so much about the food or the fuel, even though you know it's important and vital to your vitality. That you have this ability, and you're graduating, you're doing all of these things because now that's so available, and you easily step into it, right? All of those were like, they weren't these big decisions or battles or anything. It's like you just easily step into it.
Yeah. And I have gotten so in tune with my own timing on things. Like I used to, as a vegan vegetarian, I would push myself into things I wasn't ready for, because
Right.
in IIN, they're all about that. Just fake it till you make it. You have imposter syndrome. Just get over it. Just do it. Just jump before you have a plan. That's the worst thing to do. You got to know that you can ground yourself through struggle. And like I told Janice, I'm going to be a singer again. I don't know if it's going to be like a big thing or whatever at all, but I'm taking singing lessons now, and I'm really excited about it. I haven't had that part of me in so long, and I'm so happy that I'm ready for doing that.
Well, you look fantastic.
Thanks.
It's coming through your pores, it's emanating from you. You can tell it's not a facade or a put on. You're a genuine person, and it's really awesome to talk to you about this. And it's we feel really special that you shared all that you shared.
Likewise, you asked me to come. No, I really appreciate it. I think like the internet, people exposing their stories to people they don't know it changed my life, and it's going to continue changing my life. And I just want to pay it forward. We got to change the world. We really do. It needs help. The world needs some help right now.
Totally.
And before we say goodbye, we have to think about all of the canines that are also suffering out there, who have depression and anxiety and arthritis and all of the same problems that we have. So Ashley, if you don't mind taking some time to share Lloyd's story.
Absolutely. So Lloyd, we met in the rain. Remember? He was in the rain and he needed a place to go. You were trying to get into the neighbor's house because they had a cat and you were hungry. And I said, "Apoditu," and he came over. I just made up this weird word. And he came over and we tried to find his home. We tried to place him in a home, and it just worked out that he needed a place and I needed a good friend, and you've been a really great friend. But when I found him, when my roommate and I found him out there, he was totally he wasn't completely covered in mange. He was just very deeply infected with mange on his legs and his arms. And I sent you a picture to show you the back leg area. It was down to the skin. See that? Yeah. And he looks like he wants to cry in that picture. And that was like the day of. It was either the day or the day after. And he was just a mess. He had worms. What else? What else, honey? You were starving.
Yeah.
He was so hungry. And I started off giving him chicken broth, and that helped him so much. but he was getting other allergy symptoms too. The worms disappeared. But yeah, he was still dealing with some allergy stuff and runny stool. And so I figured out that he's allergic to chicken and eggs. But I eventually got him on a nice rotation of things like fresh cooked heart, a little bit of kidney. He can't have too much liver. He can have kidney, but he can't have too much liver because the vitamin A can make him really sick. So he does things like, he doesn't do chicken, but he'll do like the chicken egg shell. He'll do the duck egg shell. Sorry, because I prefer duck eggs because I'm allergic to chicken. So we have that in common. But I give him something that has a 9% component of fiber in it because and he's always eyeing my food, but he needs a special assistance expelling his anal glands for now. We'll see if we can reduce that at some point, but he is so much happier and healthier.
Yeah.
And he's my philosopher friend too. We sit around and talk philosophy.
Well, I have a real quick story. When I first went on Carnivore almost 2 years ago, I was all excited about it and was telling everybody I came across, and my neighbor being one of them, down here at the harbor. And we talked a little bit about it. Well, she's been gone or whatever, haven't seen her for a while. Oh, hey, by the way, are you still doing that Carnivore thing? And I was like, yeah, I'm still doing it. She's like, oh, well, I put my dog on it, and I'm feeding him ribeye, and he had all these problems, and now he just eats ribeye, and all his problems are cured, and he's gained all this weight and put on all this muscle. And I was like,
that's amazing.
So if you're seeing all these benefits in your dog, when are you gonna start eating?
Wow.
But she's been, I don't know how long the dog's been on it. Do you remember, Janice? I don't know how long it's been, a couple months or something.
Remember, but we are gonna try to get a before and after.
Oh man, I want to see that. That is crazy. The stuff people, they're just used to feeding them the kibble stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dr. Mercola has a really great resource for pet owners who are trying to go like completely raw or just like completely home cooked. Floppy ears. And I've learned a lot, and we've gone through a lot of different cycling just to see what works for him. Heart is a wonderful thing. But it's interesting that her dog can do really well on one kind of meat because he needs a variety.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that it's like she's willing to do that for her dog, which is great.
Yeah.
But doesn't see the value in it for herself.
Yeah, it's so emotional.
Anyway, so
who knows? She might turn around and be like, hey.
No, that's what I think. I think the more evidence that's out there, that it sort of becomes undeniable. So how can people read and see more about you and get a hold of you if they want to? What are some of your channels out there?
Sure. I have a YouTube channel. It's Ashley Noel. Lloyd. It's Ashley Noel, and it was really a great resource for me to connect with people who were interested in like the deep healing work, childhood trauma work and stuff. But it started as a carnivore channel. I've since condensed my most popular video. I don't know how many views it has, but I'd love it if anybody wanted to reach out to me there or watch a video by somebody like me. But yeah, I have an Instagram as well. that's my favorite avenue because I love photography and it's so
cool.
instant,
Yeah.
And also the MeetRx website.
Sure.
I have a coaching product up there. So
And we will link everything in the show notes and on our
Thank you.
website. So you can reach
Thank
Ashley all three of those ways. So
Thank you.
So-
Awesome. I really think that you're doing a great thing with all these great interviews. You're asking awesome questions. And I mean, is this a new chapter in your life or is this a great new adventure for you guys?
Well, that's a great segue to our upcoming interviews of each other.
Oh yeah?
At some point,
Awesome.
I'll just tease that. I'm not making any promises.
Nice.
But yes, Ashley, for me,
Yeah.
I find this incredibly exhilarating. This interview, I was just on the edge of my seat the entire time. So for me, it's absolutely riveting. And so for my future, yes, I certainly, but you'll have to wait to see our interviews of each other to find more
I
out.
can't wait. I can't wait. It's
One or
great.
two views maybe out there on that, but it's been so fantastic talking with you and such a treat and a pleasure. And you are whole, complete, and perfect.
Thank
There's
you.
nothing to fix, change, or rearrange for you.
Mhm.
And I think that's what comes into view when we shift what our fuel is for all of us, and also how we see each other, right? So yeah, just fantastic. Thank you for taking the time and coming and sharing your life and your insights and all of your nuggets of gold. And I know you're going to help a lot of people, and blessings on your pursuits. And yeah, you're having a big impact on the world, and you'll continue to do so. So yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
My blessings to you guys as well. Thank you. You have excellent interview skills, so it was easy.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. You are beautiful and brilliant, and I have so much enjoyed getting to know you. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you even better in the future and to our meet convention in Nashville.
Yeah. Are you guys
yeah.
gonna be there? Are you gonna?
About for that one, but we will definitely be at a future convention with you.
Are you gonna dress up as a ribeye, sweetheart?
What's that?
Are you gonna dress up?
Like Lady Gaga.
Remember, you are what you eat.
Oh man. Well, I would love to meet you guys in person sometime.
We'll do that.
Oh yeah,
so,
we will.
sure.
We will.
Awesome.
Well, thanks everybody for watching another episode of Confident Carnivore. Reach out to us, subscribe, like, and get a hold of us if you're interested in sharing your story, because as you can see, we're really interested in this journey that people are on through their whole lives, really. And we think this is a good conversation to be had and help a lot of people out there, also ourselves. So thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.